the truth is that you know it's on you. You know you get to choose, yeah. So what you gonna do? Because it's on you. Take it to your purpose, 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 purpose.
And welcome to another edition of Leaders and Learners, where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. And today, I hope you showed up to learn something new about being a great patient, being an advocate for yourself, being an advocate for those that you love and might be caring for, and just understanding where we are with our healthcare industry. So today, I have the amazing new author and emergency medicine physician, Miss Dr. Ruby J. Long. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. Just glad to be able to use my I guess you say my inside voice for good.
Wait a minute. So, do you use your inside voice for bad sometimes? Like, what is that?
I think it's subjective, right? So some things that I think are not controversial, like people should be treated with compassion and kindness and seen for their humanity, sometimes is maybe a little controversial.
Oh, I can't understand that, but I'm sure you're going to help me. Listen, I want you to help the people get to know you a little bit and share your story.
Absolutely. So I think I was a high energy sort of kiddo, definitely during grade school. And as I moved throughout, I was pretty smart, I think okay. And when I got to high school, I was very fortunate enough to go to a very well resourced school that was a public school. And my last class senior year was athletic training. And so I had the opportunity to hang out with all the athletes, get them ready for their events, taping ankles, things like that. So I definitely thought leaving high school, going into college, that I would be a physical therapist or an athletic trainer. And then I happened to use my inside voice and raise my hand and said, well, what do doctors have to do? And they were like, well, take some English and a couple math classes, lots of science, and take your MCAT. So I did that. And I did okay on my first go around, particularly entrance exams. And then I realized that I had to step my game up. I got some help with tutoring and things like that, test taking, went back at it, and voila, never had a problem through medical school. So that was very exciting. And then I think I just like a little bit of everything, but I got commitment issues. So I think emergency medicine is lovely for me, right? We spend several hours together. In the worst situation, maybe we spend a day or two together, but at the end of that time, we have a plan, right? Go to surgery, go home, feel better, or come in and be admitted to the hospital. So that's how I got here.
Wow. So, let me ask you this. Since you have been in the medical field, one, what have you discovered that you wish you would have been taught in school? Because so many times, even in public relations and media and journalism, we take these classes, we go into these fields, and we realize, man, there are some things about actualizing our education that we don't get taught. What is it about your career that you wish would have been taught during your studies?
Oh boy. I think, okay, there are some soft things, kind of like billing and coding, right? Once you get out into the real world, you're held to a different standard. And honestly, this is a business, so we have to be wise with our resources, right? And not just waste them. But I think it's helpful to have those helpful conversations or those really uncomfortable conversations, just to say, like, we want to make sure we cover what there possibly could be, but that we don't go overboard, or that we are considerate and listen to the patients when they tell you what they've had done at various places, before just willy-nilly doing test procedures and things like that on them. And then lastly, interpersonal relationships, not with the patients. We always focus on patients and patient satisfaction and really visualizing the humanity of our patients and those that support them. It's just team building and things like that, I think would actually be helpful. So, every team is
So
a
are
little
you
different.
telling me that doctors don't have interpersonal skills and know how to socialize? Is that can't be what you're saying?
Um, I think
I love your moments of silence. Killing it.
I think there are definitely different personalities that you will see in different areas of medicine. Some of them are more team oriented, outgoing, um, and some just are really excellent technicians.
Listen, I know medical school and the medical profession is demanding during your studies. How did you find time to become a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority?
Oh, well, that was before med school. That was an undergrad, fall 1999.
I know, but girl, it's still challenging.
It's not funny, but it's kind of funny. I think even my sorority sisters in undergrad could see something in me because we had study tables. And I don't know if I was just, again, the person eager to raise my hand or if people actually thought I was kind of smart, but I was the dean of academics my last year. And I made sure we had excellent study tables, focused on our GPA as a chapter and made sure, of course, that the study tables had a room and a location. So I suppose that's a good thing. But Alpha Kappa Alpha, she don't play. Like you gotta at least have a certain GPA to first get in. Number two, in order to maintain, and number three, like when you want something, you will find a way.
So listen, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you in this moment, what does it mean to have the vice president running for president in regards to you being a black woman in the medical field? So I want you to lean into what that means. And then we're going to get a little bit more into the minutia of your job and why that's so important.
Madam Vice President Kamala Harris is just really exciting. One, right? It seems that she had to blaze her own path. She had to do the hard work and she's earned her positions, right? And so I think there has been significant stress upon leaders and women in leadership position. And just to see that there is a confident, competent woman who has made it to one of the highest office in the world, I think is exciting. Um, and it's inspiring because really, when you think about the pathway to leadership, it does not matter what your discipline is or what your industry is. There are some commonalities, right? When we look at who is in charge of our Fortune 500 companies, these are very male dominated fields, no different in medicine. And so politics and government are very similar as well. So just hats off to her. And then, of course, like every great Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority incorporated woman, she goes above and beyond and gives service to her community and really works in capacity of, right, just society. So that's pretty exciting.
Now, I want to get into more of what you see could be improved in the medical field from your experience, and then what a presidency with her at the top of the ticket would look like in relationship to those improvements. Will it help any of the things that you see needs improvement? Talk me through that.
Well, her entire healthcare plan, I am not abreast of it, but I know that there's a very strong economic component to it. And it's really about the, sorry if you can hear the sirens.
All good.
Um, Really, it seems like a strong component of a healthy nation and healthy community members are their economic wellness and making sure people have jobs, access to safe housing, affordable housing, and things like that. So she's not saying our medical terminology, but we call these things social determinants of health. And literally, where people live, the things inside of their zip code, the education they have access to, the access to healthy foods, walkable, safe communities, all of these things impact your health and your health outcomes more than your genes or your genetics or your family makeup. And so I think literally giving us an opportunity where people can thrive off of merit and hard work, I think will be tremendous in the long run.
You can't possibly be saying that someone's socioeconomics and their location determines how they might get treated in the medical field. Now, yeah, no.
I'm going to hold off on socioeconomics because
No, let's keep it a buck. We have to recognize that people are treated the way they are perceived and what they are perceived to have access to. So, do you believe as a physician, and not necessarily by you, but in your job capacity, have you seen people be treated a certain type of way based on the perception of if they have money and insurance or not?
well, in the
Come on.
emergency department, we take care of people no matter their insurance status or whatever. We always work on the paperwork later. We do the job, we take care of people, we get them what they need. Now, on the outside, maybe you need some follow up care. Maybe you need a subspecialty evaluation in a couple weeks or a week or something like that. That's where things get sticky. If you don't have transportation to get to these sites, offices, or clinics, that can be a problem. And definitely, if you don't have the copay or some sort of charity care set up beforehand, that can be problematic as well. But I think the thing that just threw me through, I'm going to say COVID rage, it was the fact that I worked in two very different environments during the start of the pandemic. One on the coast where there are lots of transient people that work in farms, industrial jobs, things like that, factories, and another where people are more centered around the knowledge economy. And I swear I would see the same patient, young, typically youthful, but they would have very different outcomes. The people in the rural community often didn't have access to some of the subspecialty care. And so that means that sometimes they died, right? And the people that lived in a different community with access to more state of the art care survived.
What are your thoughts about that? Like, talk to me about as a physician, and then talk to me about just as a human being, how that made you feel.
Made me mad. I mean, at first I thought, oh, people are playing with me because I have to ask permission to get medical safety equipment, right, for myself. And then when I think about it, right, like I study trauma, that is my jam. And so when I think about the impact of COVID, right, there are these immediate things that happen in the week or so that you can't go to work and you just feel kind of crummy. But for the people that don't make it, there are a ridiculous amount of orphans out there who have lost their social support. There are families whose primary care giver or facilitator for their family have died. And so we literally have a generation of trauma that I'm not sure people can articulate, that people will know the long-term consequences to it, because we're not calling it by name. And ultimately, I think that's what led to me writing the book, because I just felt like when you think about policy and change, it takes years to get things really moving and then implemented at the bedside. So I was just like, I'm going out in the streets and telling the people what I wish I would know.
I was, we talk a lot about you being an emergency medical physician. So with your book, I was shocked to see so much material around trauma, because you don't think people just come into the emergency room for trauma. They come because they're having a heart attack or they broke something or something happened. But trauma can actually be something that people come into emergency for. Talk to me about what that looks like.
Some people may not be able to name what exactly it is, right? But is it the PTSD or the post-traumatic sort of syndrome that people feel after their intimate partner, the person they loved, has financially or physically abused them? There's a whole cohort of people who are young, vibrant, youthful, high school, early adults who come in secondary to gun and firearm violence. And I don't know if you know, but the US Surgeon General has just issued a new report saying that firearm violence is a public health crisis. So this came out in June, but believe me, the problem didn't happen last year. It's been building, 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 building. And then with the pandemic, it just put it on steroids. And so all violence, domestic violence, intimate partner violence, violence against another person, they're up. And even violence against ourselves. I don't know if people really realize it, but I think many people think that guns and firearms are used against other people. But really, suicide is the number one reason that gun deaths occur.
Why is it so hard for us to grasp how impactful and long-term gun violence is? Like, what is your experience, especially talking to people? What is the disconnect? Like, you know it. I'm a gun violence survivor, so I know it. For people that have not even experienced gun violence or had to deal with anybody that is a trauma recovery patient, where is the disconnect? And is that something you've ever been successful in getting a patient or a patient's caregiver to understand?
It's so hard until people have actually experienced it to kind of describe it, right? It's kind of like when you take, when you're in high school, you study your classes, you pass your test, and then you go out in the real world and you're like, what? How do I write a check? How do I do these things? And so much of lived experience makes a difference. And I think so many people have not had a close relationship with somebody that has been injured. We also kind of, I don't want to say, we also kind of shame some of these uncomfortable things and encourage that these are family problems or personal matters, right? When couples don't get along with each other and they result to violence towards one another. Or if someone commits suicide, I feel like sometimes people don't even want to say that word out of fear that it may cause someone else to commit the act or something like that. But really, there are some very underlying issues that as a society, we just don't have open, honest conversations about.
I don't understand how we're supposed to solve problems if people don't even want to have open, honest conversations about them. But I'm really proud that you are unafraid to broach this subject. Give us a minute. We're going to get a note from our sponsor, pay some bills, and we'll be right back and get right into love letters to patients. We'll be right back, guys.
Starting Point. Built by consultants for consultants. Building a consultancy is difficult. Companies use systems to track and gain customers. Retaining your customers is an even tougher challenge. You need workflow systems for your company and customers. Your customers want answers, access, and updates from you. They want to quickly track progress and easily share information with you. Your customers want transparency, visibility, and efficiency. Starting Point is the central software for your company for services, support, communication, and management with your team and customers. Starting Point gives your customers and team access, visibility, and one software for their needs with your company. Contact us to learn more about how Starting Point can help your company and your customers.
All right, welcome back, guys. So, Dr. Long, listen, you said COVID rage. I'm sure many people have experienced it. Please explain yourself. What is COVID rage?
I don't know if it's a real thing, but you know how some people just make up names. I make up names for things all the time.
Fine. Tell them what that is, what that means to you.
It means I have enough sense in my head not to physically act on how I feel in a negative way. Because I think people will only see the rage. And I think they usually call the police when people are raging out in the streets. But for me, I feel that COVID rage is it's really the deep heartbreak of feeling like people haven't been seen, people haven't been heard, some people haven't had the best opportunity to survive. And then, of course, I don't know if you know, but there are hundreds of thousands of children out there who lost the primary person that takes care of them because of COVID. And I am pretty terrified. I'm pretty terrified as to the long-term effects of what's going to happen to children without support and leadership and kindness, right? What happens when people label them as things other than human beings?
It's so interesting to me that you bring up a subject that, even in this political environment right now, when they talk about COVID, who's to blame, who did what, no one talks about the kids. No one talks about the kids. So I applaud you for doing that, and hopefully there will be more awareness and even maybe some legislation to help those that lost their caretakers and their parents, their guardians, during that time. But yeah, it was pretty traumatic. It was pretty traumatic. So rage, how do you deal with rage? Oh, you go write a book.
Write a book.
Tell us
People-
the hardest thing ever. Go write a book and publish it and all the good things.
So
So
just imagine how much motivation you have to be like, you know what? I'm mad. Let me go write this research paper. You know what? I'm still mad. I have more stuff to say after I've written policy, papers, and da-da-da. You know what? Let me just go put this in a book for the everyday person.
absolutely. And for those of you that have yet to purchase your copy, Love Letters to Patients is a beautiful book. It's an easy read. It is it's a reference piece. It's also very it resonates. It can resonate with just about anyone. Now, one of the things that you did with this book is you really centered on populations that are either underserved or undercared for. Talk about why that was important to you.
I just want people to have a fighting chance, right? Be them 89 years old, living in a nursing home, be them 4 years old, right? On the verge of going to preschool or pre-K. I just want people to have a healthy life. Whatever their body can do, I want them to be able to do that to their full ability. And when I come home and stay up at night or get sick to my stomach or feel like really nauseous, the fact that sometimes I see two very similar patients in two different zip codes that have two totally different outcomes bothers me.
Okay, so when it bothers you, what's the solution? Because clearly you recognize that it's not isolated to just the location that you're at. So, what is the solution for some of these larger problems in our healthcare system right now?
If I could have one wish, one magical wand, it would be education on two levels. One for providers and people that care for others to really focus in on the humanity of those they serve, in a very unbiased way, right? Like treat everyone as though they're your favorite person in the world. And the second thing I would do is honestly focus in on our small children. If I can make every elementary school, preschool to the caliber of our Ivy League schools in college and put the interest on that, I would totally do it. People that have higher quality education live longer, make more contributions to society, and in general live healthier lives. I think that's something to be said.
Man, you have a section of the book that you're going to read for us. Please share.
Yay! All right. So I just really want to say thank you. Thank you to all the people that have supported me, and that honestly didn't smash my dreams. And it really is my hope that collectively, patients, advocates, and providers can bring healing back to healthcare. My goal with this book is to empower patients and patients advocates of their knowledge of their worth as human beings and worthiness of quality healthcare. I will continue to encourage health systems to review their application of policies, implicit biases. However, all those that are touched by this book, I hope that you are heard the first time you and your love show up for healthcare. And I look forward to the day when the experts with the lived experience of being part of a marginalized community are truly listened to and not spoken over.
Ooh, I like that. But I do have to ask you this because I was feeling a little left out. You see, me and my friends are going through something, and there are times that I want to show up at the emergency room, and I'm not sure how they would treat me. You know what it's called? It's called perimenopause. There are days I feel like I should be admitted to the hospital because we just don't know what's going on with our bodies. You've helped everybody in this book except for us. Okay. So I don't know if this is perimenopause derangement syndrome. I don't know what it is, Doc. But do you have some advice for us ladies that have absolutely no clue about what is going on in our bodies right now because didn't nobody talk to us about it?
Oh no. Well, immediately you have to be proactive, right? And if you feel that for real, like you're like, wait a minute, I'm pouring out in sweats and I think I'm about to pass out. And I'm just sitting here, right?
Or trying to sleep or trying to, I don't know, live.
Yes. However, if you legitimately, if it doesn't pass in 5 minutes or so, it's taking your breath away, you feel nauseous, you're vomiting, have you really thought maybe it's your heart? Maybe it's something else, right? So no matter what it is, I think checking in with a doctor, maybe a doctor that might resemble you and your demographics might be helpful as well. Sometimes there are these cultural understandings that we tend to get a little better care with. They call it correlation or the correspondence between patients and their providers. And lastly, no, you're not crazy. You need community. And I would hang out with some of the, I would start with the women's health providers. And usually they have some support groups that they are more in tune with. And so building community and not being alone is a huge thing. Even in pregnancy, we call it cohort care. When there are communities of people with similar health issues or concerns, when they partner with each other and build community, then they tend to have better health outcomes, even healthier babies.
I'm afraid a bunch of women going through perimenopause and menopause hanging out together might wind up hurting each other. I don't know. That could just be me. I digress. Digress. But I understand exactly what you're saying. I do. One of the chapters in the book talks about letters to other providers. Tell us about that.
So occasionally I get a phone call in the middle of the night from somebody that I love who has been treated less than their worth in a healthcare facility. There have even been a couple times I've had my little bottom out in that gown, and I'm just like, I don't think it was supposed to go that way. And so really just taking a step back, when people show up for healthcare, they are usually very scared, extremely uncomfortable, because most people don't know the physiology, the physical makeup of our bodies and how they're supposed to truly function. And so we have to give a little bit and come with some trust. And so we're being brave when we show up for care. But then sometimes people that take care of us seem like they are bothered by our presence. And that is an automatic shutdown for patients receiving the information that you have to give, or maybe even being compliant with your care recommendations or prescriptions that you have, things like that. So essentially, if you love what you do, keep doing it. But if you feel that you are there for a paycheck, it might be time to find a different source of joy, because I think happy people, joyful people, like really deeply joyful people, they seem to give off great energy, and other people are attracted to that. And if it's just about a paycheck, this is
Did you say that in the letter? I didn't get to that part. Did you say that in the letter to your people?
I did. Well,
I love you.
the exact wording is, please tap into that desire to truly help others that originally piqued your interest in healthcare. Patients are counting on it. Honestly, if the glimmer is gone and the new normal has become a paycheck or power over others, please do reflect on which profession would bring you joy. It is the joy that people see in you that makes them reflect back joyously to you.
Mm, mm, I hear that. Hey, tell me really quick, what type of patients, what are your favorite? Like when they come in, you're excited. You're excited to help them. You're excited to solve their problem. What's your favorite?
I just like, I don't want to say humble people,
Mm,
but I just like people who are not afraid to say, I am scared that this is something life threatening. Thank you for listening to me. And thank you for taking care of my family member. And I feel like I have a few people who have approached death, who survived stroke, who survived heart attack, or honestly, I don't know what they were in, but it was not a safe situation. And eventually they came back and said, thank you, right? Thank you for just taking that minute to really listen.
As you know, I'm a LA County Commissioner of Alcohol and Other Drugs, and we have some really big drug problems going on in our county and in our nation. So I do know that overdosing is a big issue in our country. You addressed it in your book, but what is your advice to anyone right now considering using drugs? Like, explain to them how much you actually deal with overdoses, accidental overdoses, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
and your advice to them.
I'll just leave it like there are no do-overs in the dope game.
Okay.
And Narcan might give you an opportunity, but just the way things have been co-mixed recently and compounded together, or you think if I take this pill, this party pill, have a drink, and then do a line of that, or smoke a little this, by the time all those, they're chemicals and toxins, by the time they take effect of your body, it's really challenging. It's hard to say don't do drugs, right? Because that doesn't work.
Right.
And the real question is, what has you so uneasy that you need to soothe yourself and solve your feelings or your situation with drugs or alcohol? Some people do it with food, right? Some people do it with sex. Some people do it with gambling. So everybody has a vice. You know, the goal is to really look at the why. Why do you need this to feel better? Whatever it is. And if you can have that honest conversation with yourself, then maybe you might not use. But immediately, whoever you are hanging out with that is offering you to do a line of coke or whatever, they really aren't your friends. New friends, ASAP.
Get some new friends. I can tell your affinity towards kids. So I want to ask you, how do you feel that right now in this moment in time, we are teaching kids to use Narcan at school? Like that is an actual thing now as a medical professional. How do you feel about that?
I'm not so terrified, right? Because what's the option, right? They're seeing people turn blue, purple, and die and don't know what to do. So now we arm them. Yes, there's a bit of anxiety, but it's kind of like that whole debate maybe 20 years ago. Do you keep condoms in the high school bathroom? Ooh, definitely not in the junior high bathroom. Junior high kids aren't having sex.
Hmm.
So, I feel like this. It is because I have good support that I have not made some of these decisions, that some of my curiosities have not caught up with me like they have with other people. And so it's really hard for me to be like, you shouldn't use drugs. I don't know how you grew up. I don't know what's going on, But I know that if we had a healthier option or alternative for you, easier access to mental health providers, less stigma around it, that might make a difference. Or if you had a job and lost your job and now you can't, you have no place to eat and no place to sleep, or you used to be able to afford your food and now you can't, right?
It's wild. It's just wild and it's sad. Um, but it's not going away. And every decade the trend changes, but the addiction stays the same. And I guess that's the scary part about it is even if the epidemic that we're having right now with fentanyl and trank and these types of drugs, before it was crack, and before it was what were these drugs that people were dealing with. It just every decade the trend changes, but it's still a drug issue. It just makes me sad. So all that being said, I do want to thank you for spending time on the platform. I have a last question for you. Give me 3 words that you would never want affiliated with you.
The first is lazy. Maybe the next is uncompassionate, and definitely not incompetent.
Oh, so you're a smart, hardworking, compassionate lady. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Miss Lady, for taking the time to spend with us and talk to our audience about your book. Let everyone know how they can get in touch with you, continue to follow your journey, and if they need you, how they can make that happen.
Absolutely. You can send me a bat signal through the website of www.drrubyjlong.org. I am on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn as Dr. Ruby J. Long as my handle. So I am happy to reach out. And if you feel you just want to draft a full email, please reach out to me at support@loveletterstopatients.com. We'll try and throw that in the show notes, and just please be well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here, and we will continue to keep in touch. Once you are a member of the Leaders and Learners family, you're always a part of our family. And if there's anything we can do to help you out, let us know. We're here. We got you. Hey, thanks for showing up to the podcast where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. When you get a sec, take a moment, leave a comment. What you think about today's episode? And share it with someone that you know could use the gems that were dropped today. Follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss who's coming up next. You never know who could show up here and what they could say. For your professional needs, marketing, PR, communications, and leadership, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Sand and Shores, or hit us up at sandandshores.com. Again, thanks so much for showing up. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.